Welcome back to the Underground Files show. This is where we discuss the illegal activities that occur in residences. We have just heard a story about an individual who is running her own Habli business in residence. So, Ofenze, as a residence rep, how do you feel about students taking initiative and actually starting their own businesses?
Well, you see, that's the thing. It's a university regulation that you're not allowed to have any kind of business in res, whether you're selling cigarettes or whether you're selling knickknacks to even, Habli flavor, tobacco, whatever. So you're not allowed to have any form of business in your residences. But I suppose now it's just sort of up to the hall wardens and the wardens. They turn a blind eye to it, or whatever. If they feel like it's not too harmful or not disturbing anybody else's life or whatever, then they let it go. But as a university rule, you're not allowed to have any form of business in your res.
Is there any particular license perhaps that you need to acquire first to be allowed to trade in?
No trade at all in residence. It's a university-wide regulation.
Okay, Dr. Kukolti, how do you feel about students who actually start businesses and actually sell things like Habli, which are, I believe, quite dangerous to one's health?
Yeah, I suppose the thing is, where you're going to draw the line. Either you enforce the rules rigidly that we've heard about, in which case you don't allow people to sell knickknacks or anything, or, chocolate or whatever they're going to sell. Or, you allow them to. I suppose you could selectively enforce the law. If somebody was kind of becoming a nuisance, you could enforce the law. But that's kind of a murky issue because, you either enforce it or you don't. But the one thing that I wondered about was, one of the people was saying that Habli's different to tobacco and alcohol. I don't think it is, Look, I'm not going to get moralistic about this. I have an ongoing battle with smoking. But Habli is certainly as bad as cigarette smoke for you, if not worse. I mean, there's conflicting reports. But, yeah, I think if you're going to allow people to sell things, if you're going to allow them to sell cigarettes or alcohol, I think they would probably clamp down on, because it's only allowed to be sold through the res pubs and so on. Yeah. But if they're going to be allowed to sell chips and things, probably they should be allowed to sell Habli as well.
Even though Habli poses a health risk in as much as cigarettes, or perhaps even more?
Well, I don't know. I don't really think they should be allowed to sell Habli, because that's the other thing as well with trading in residences. Like Dr. Kukolti said, you're only allowed to do it through your, if you're selling alcohol, it's through your res pubs, or if you're selling knickknacks and chocolates is through your res tuck shops. Those are the only two forms of trade that's allowed to go on in the res, because that's legit and the res applies for that. So I think maybe people get sort of confused with like, oh, well, if the tuck shop is allowed to sell knickknacks, why can't I sell my own knickknacks and make my own money and all of that sort of stuff? But like with Habli and all sorts of smoking products, I suppose, the law is 16. So, we are generally assuming that if you're in res, you're over, 17, 18? So it's not a legal issue in that sense, that you're selling to people that are possibly underage or whatever. But I do agree with what Dr. Kukolti said, is that Habli smoke is probably worse for you, if not the same as tobacco. And
well, in the story that we heard, the individual actually mentioned that she did not make it discreet. Everybody basically knew that she had a Habli business, yet she was not condemned or stopped in running her business. How do you feel about that?
Well, that's what generally happens on campus. I know in some reses there's about 4 or 5 different individuals having their own little tuck shops running, and they've got posters everywhere. It's in the reses, it's in their dining halls. The warden knows about. Sometimes the poster's right in front of the warden's door and nobody says anything about it. So, I do understand what you're saying, because there are a lot of people that do that. And if your warden's not going to complain about it, then why should anybody else, kind of thing?
Okay. So basically, the problem here is, where do we draw the line? When do we say, yes, this is what we will sell and this is what we will trade? Is that what I'm getting from?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. And, if you're going to stop people selling some things illegally, you probably have to stop them from selling all.
Yes.
Okay, we're not talking about weed or things here.
Yes.
That might be another issue which we'll get onto.
Absolutely.
But you can't say you can sell knickknacks and not bar one.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
But I think as long as it's not being a hassle.
Yes.
If you're hassling your neighbors, yes.
Okay, so it should not be a hassle. Absolutely. Digging deeper into the underbelly of residence life, it's now time to discover the contentious issue of weed.
The use of marijuana and other illegal substances has become so widespread at Rhodes University that it has almost become normal to smoke weed on a regular basis.
My history with cannabis has long preceded my start here at Rhodes. It started when I was about 16, and it was my older brother who introduced me to it. My friends, I'd say, I met them without any pretense of smoking weed. And then as we got to know each other better, it came out that they were neutral towards it and they do it for fun as well. It was great. I've made a few friends through smoking the substance, but other than that, most of my friends have been made without the context of weed. Most of the time I do it to relax. I'm a very intense person. I do suffer from depression, and I do feel that that helps me because my sort of depression, it jumps around. It's not exactly bipolar, but it's bordering as vegetative symptoms. So what it does is it evens me out a lot. And I don't actually need it necessarily, but I do have it just to, it relaxes me, and as well as the fact that I do suffer from insomnia. Some of the other time inside a res room, as not allowed as that be, but what we would do is, not to share the secrets, but put a towel at the door and get a fan faced towards the window so it blow the smoke straight out, as not to annoy people. The amount that I do smoke jumps between my holidays and at Rhodes. When at Rhodes, if I can get some, I will smoke it, but not too often. It is my choice to do that, and if I get caught, then I will accept it. Generally, my friends in Grahamstown, they've got their own dealers. As much as I've tried to make contact with those ones, it's very hard because dealers in Grahamstown are very paranoid because it's a small town. But in general, what I do is, because from our dealer we measure it by the size of the bank key. A normal sized bank bag it's 50 rand, and then you get a small one which is a 20. I think the warden knows, but he can't catch. So the policy is if you get caught, it's your fault. Then there's things like shrooms, and I enjoy that because also it works nicely on my brain, and the auditory and visual hallucinations are very pleasing. And then there's the other things like peyote. I've done that as well, and that was very nice. Before I ever try anything, I make sure to research it fully first. I do my homework beforehand because I'm not going to rush into something like that and just try anything. So I want to be at least educated on what I'm doing before I do it so that I know what's going to happen. They are very aware of my usage for weed because they sometimes smoke with me. Well, not my dad. He stops. He criticizes my rolling skills, but my mom definitely.
It is evident in this talk that the tradition of smoking illegal substances cannot be solely attributed to Rhodes residence culture, as some students come from a background that accepts and encourages the use of illegal substances. Home Affairs presents The Underground Files on RMR 89.7 FM.
You are still on your number one radio station, that is RMR 89.7 FM, listening to the Underground Files. We have just heard a very interesting take on using weed in residence. Dr. Kakaldi, I'd like to hear your opinion about this particular story that we've just heard.
Yeah, okay. This puts me on a spot because I can't bring the university into disrepute. Which is, look, the university has to enforce the drug laws. The university can't say we're going to allow cannabis to be freely used on campus. There's just no ways they can do it. But my argument would be there's ways that they can handle that. I don't think you need to call in the cops if you find weed in somebody's room. I think the process can be handled internally. Okay, if you have a kind of repeat offender, it might be different. But, if somebody gets caught, my argument is that it should be handled internally. And that the person get maybe community service. And the one guy was commenting on the fact that he was kind of something like borderline bipolar.
Yes.
If you're bipolar, you shouldn't smoke weed because it, what's a polite word, messes you up completely. It's okay. So, maybe somebody like that, if they were caught, you could get them to research the effects of weed on bipolar. My argument would be don't go looking for it. If you find it, you're forced to act because the law says you have to act. But I don't know why you want to be little policemen. Go and join the police if you want to.
Yes. And Fanny, what is your take on that?
I don't know. I do think in reses, generally it is handled internally. I've only heard of very few cases where it's gone big and they've called the police and stuff. But I think of most of the cases that I've heard of anyway, it's, usually the hall warden or the house warden will find out, CPU gets involved, and then the guy will get like 50 hours, depending on how much weed they found on him or whatever. And then, they just they just deal with it internally. I don't really think. I mean, look, the university does have to take a chance because it is an illegal drug or whatever. But I don't really think they go crazy about, oh my God, I'm going to call the police on you, kind of handling it.
I think the problem is that you could get an individual warden
Yes.
who was like very anti-weed.
Yes, that's
and who would go the whole hog. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that-
certainly
yeah, that
rumours
is
of
actually
such
true.
cases.
That is actually quite true. That is actually quite
And have there been any recent cases of weed being found in res that you perhaps know about, Dr. Kukaldi?
Obviously, I can't comment on specifics.
Generally, though.
Yeah, generally, there have been cases which have been handled internally. And students have been forced to account for their actions and in some cases enter kind of counseling programs to do research themselves. I think that's far more constructive. If you send someone for counseling and you get them to write an essay on the effects of weed on certain conditions, you kind of educate. I don't see why you have to ruin someone's whole career because you've bust them smoking weed once or twice.
Yeah, do you not think, though, that would breed a sort of culture of believing that, well, I can do weed, it's just going to be about 50 hours in university and I'll definitely not have a criminal record? Do you not think that it will breed such perceptions among students?
Yeah, but if you enforce the law, are you going to stop people from smoking weed? People are going to smoke weed anyway. I'm certain that one or two lecturers may smoke weed in the university as well. I'm obviously not going to go and sniff around on behalf of the union and find who smokes weed. I mean, people smoke weed in society. Weed being classified as a dangerous drug has got a whole political history that's very unrelated to the effects of weed. It's all about it. Sorry, I don't want to witter on too much, but it came about in the 1920s when there was increasing focus on social control because of civil disobedience. And weed was latched onto as one of the things to enforce social control. They should have latched onto alcohol as well.
Absolutely,
if they wanted.
yes.
There's far more damage caused to society and to individual lives by alcohol. No one's saying you shouldn't be allowed to buy alcohol in res.
Yes.
But I hasten to add, the university can't say you can buy weed in res.
Absolutely, they cannot breed such a culture of acceptance, especially because weed is an illegal substance. So how should a warden or a sub-warden actually go by in addressing maybe a student who has weed in their room or rather suspecting? Where do you think they should begin?
Well, you see, that's the thing. First of all, you don't go looking for it. You don't go sniffing around. Oh, I think, Massey's got weed in her. I think Massey's got weed in her room. Therefore, I'm going to go knocking on her door, breaking down the door. You can't go doing that. We do have a whole privacy issue, and there are whole constitutions and the university constitution that says you have to respect students' privacy. So you don't go looking for it.
Okay. So wardens and sub-wardens should actually breed a culture where they don't go looking for trouble. However, if they do find, then they should act upon the university policy. Absolutely. Thank you. We have come to the end of our show. It has been absolutely insightful and interesting. I hope that you've enjoyed yourselves as much as I have. I'd like to thank the Underground Files team for putting together such an awesome show. A big thanks to my producer, Tarryn Ross, the techies, Alex Higgins and Ruth Chatukuta, to our marketer for doing a fantastic job with marketing our show, Luke Arnold, you rock, and to the main man, Ross Alford, thank you for being the greatest executive producer of all time. Last but not least, a big thank you to our guests, Dr. Kukaldi and Ofenze. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks very much. Yeah,
Yes.
Very
great.
educational.
Yes, it has been an absolute pleasure. You were insightful, you were awesome, and you sparked up very riveting and absolutely refreshing debates. Thanks to our listeners. I hope that this show has informed and entertained you regarding issues of illegal activities. Coming up next, we have the Long Talk to Freedom show, which discusses issues relating to the environment at Rhodes. From me, your host, Masichaba Mpete, just keep it locked and loaded on RMR 89.7 FM.
Home Affairs presents the Underground Files, a look into what Rhodes students are really getting up to.
This is 89.7 FM. RMR.